If Zoro was in Hunter x Hunter, he'd be dead by episode 5. Okay, bold statement, but before the Zoro fans go crazy, I'm also a Zoro fan. We're on the same side, so hear me out. I've always been a Zoro fan, but after giving it some serious thought, I realized there is no way Zoro would ever survive in the Hunter x Hunter world, and it's not because Zoro is too weak. Not even because of Nen, the power system in Hunter x Hunter. I wanted to think Zoro would do well in Hunter x Hunter, but then I remembered that Hunter x Hunter is an anime about finding things. In other words, not getting lost. At first I thought, Zoro is strong as hell, he'd be a great hunter. I mean, he is literally a pirate hunter already. But then I remembered that in order to become a hunter, you actually have to find the hunter exam with no directions, without getting lost. In case you don't remember, let me remind you just how bad Zoro is with directions. Zoro was told to go up the stairs, and Zoro went away from the stairs. If you tell Zoro to go up, he goes down. If you tell Zoro to go left, he'll go right. I can't remember how many times I've heard One Piece fans say that the series will end when Zoro gets lost and accidentally finds the One Piece. But let's say Zoro does find the exam. How? I don't know. But let's say he does. He gets there somehow. The exam is all about not getting lost. You start off going through a dark tunnel and then into a misty forest where you have to try and find the way out with only a freaky-haired Frenchman as a guide. And then if he somehow escapes this forest designed to make you get lost, he has to go into a literal maze. Zoro wouldn't make it past the run to get to the forest without accidentally going back the other way. It's over, he'd never make it. Except, maybe he actually would. Because other than Zoro's swordsmanship, he does have one other incredible ability. He is unbelievably lucky. Zoro has bet his life and survived numerous times in One Piece, and somehow he has gotten lost and found something important by sheer luck over and over again. Which is why we joke about Zoro finding the One Piece, but what if it's not a joke? What if in this world, Zoro does find everything he needs to become the world's greatest hunter by sheer luck? How would that play out? So with all that in mind, I'm going to talk through all of the ways in which Zoro would either die or just fail the exam before even finishing the very first arc of Hunter x Hunter, and how, if he gets really lucky, he might just survive and go on to become the strongest hunter in the entire show. Let's begin. So Zoro is now in Hunter x Hunter world. He's on the island that Gon starts off with, and he's doing Zoro stuff. He's drinking, he's sleeping, well, that's probably it, except maybe also doing some swordplay. He decides that he wants to leave the island so that he can become the world's greatest swordsman, just like he did in One Piece. The best way to do anything in the Hunter x Hunter world, for those of you who don't know, is to become a hunter. So that's probably what Zoro would do. So say he sets off one day to leave the island, try and become a hunter. After several hard years, he arrives at the dock a short distance from his home. He falls asleep on a boat, it's the wrong boat, and he gets lost at sea. But with Zoro's luck, let's say he just happens to fall asleep on the right boat, which by chance takes him to the town where the hunter exam is taking place. Zoro tries to find a bar to get some sake, and despite being in the middle of town, somehow ends up in the forest. To reach the hunter exam, you have to find the giant cedar tree in the forest, where you encounter a dying husband and his wife kidnapped by a strange creature. But don't be fooled. This is all an exam. Those aren't people. Those are shapeshifters pretending to be people in order to test Hunter exam applicants. Gon and the other main characters of Hunter x Hunter passed this test because they were intelligent enough to spot small differences, revealing the truth of the situation, and kind enough to look after the husband and save the wife. Then it turns out the creatures are actually the guides and will help them find the exam. But if Zoro took this test, he would have turned the Kiriko into soup and lost his guide to the exam. Well, let's assume that doesn't happen. In fact, I can actually see Zoro becoming friends with the creatures instead, if they haven't have any booze, or he could just intimidate them, and as a result, they lead him to the hunter exam. So Zoro somehow manages to make it to the exam. Now, the first part of the exam is a 100-kilometer run at a very fast pace, but considering how Zoro trains, he's not going to struggle with this. He isn't going to fall for tactics like offering poisoned sodas either. Zoro running in a straight direction is a challenge. But let's say he becomes friends with somebody who helps him stay in the right direction. Zoro's not the most friendly, but I can see somebody seeing how strong he is and trying to become his friend for protection. so Zoro could gain a guide that way. After running in a straight line, which is already an achievement for Zoro, they end up at what's going to be the biggest challenge of Zoro's career. He has to somehow make his way through a fog-covered jungle infested with animals that use tricks, illusions, and magic to make people lost. I repeat, this is a magic forest whose sole purpose is to make people who enter it become lost. I don't know whether this will be impossible for Zoro because even skilled hunters get lost in it, or if it'll be a breeze because for Zoro, this is his everyday experience. For most people, this is a nightmare. For Zoro, this is just Tuesday. Zoro would be one of the strongest, if not the strongest person there, which means he'll definitely get the attention of the evil killer clown, Hisoka. This is a very powerful Hunter x Hunter character who only wants to fight people who are strong, and that's all he wants to do in life. Zoro would welcome the opportunity to fight Hisoka because he also has kind of a similar goal going on. So now maybe Zoro beats him and Hisoka becomes his guide out of the forest. I can also see it becoming a stalemate and going on for so long that they both fail. Zoro's sense of direction is so bad, but in a forest like this, I don't think he's ever getting out. It's possible someone might try to guide him, which is the only way he would ever get out. But here's all of the reasons that wouldn't work. Guide follows the examiner, Zoro follows the guide gets lost, and they're stranded forever. Zoro follows the guide, but Zoro loses track of the guide and gets lost forever. Zoro follows the guide but gets attacked by Hisoka, loses the guide and gets lost forever. Zoro gets tricked by a creature into going the wrong way and gets lost forever. A creature impersonates his guide and Zoro gets lost forever. There's more, but I think you get the picture. Basically, without plot armor, Zoro is never getting out of the forest, and eventually just passes away there. This is still just the beginning of the first arc, and Zoro has already encountered an unwinnable situation. But there is one way Zoro could get there, and weirdly enough, it's the same way he arrived at the exam in the first place. Zoro realizes he's lost, decides to go to sleep, because that feels like something Zoro would do in a situation like this. But without realizing it, he somehow ends up sleeping on a monster's back who, by chance, takes him to the next exam stage. If Zoro does this, then he'll pretty much be fine and be able to make his way there. But this trick isn't going to work in the next part of the exam. We have to go into a literal maze with no animals inside. This is a maze. The world is already a maze for Zoro, so just going into an actual maze will not be easy for him. Not to mention the challenges in the maze aren't just fighting, you have to solve actual puzzles, which Zoro is not good at. The tower maze starts off right at the top, and with the goal of getting to the bottom. With no obvious way down, Zoro will be stumped pretty quickly. There's no stairs, and anyone who tries to climb down gets attacked by ugly flying babies. Anime is weird sometimes. Only a set number of people can make it through before it becomes impossible, and once again, there's a time limit. The stakes are high. However, something weird starts to happen. Over time, people start disappearing around you. They're actually finding secret passageways in the ground, which takes them inside the tower. However, I'm not certain Zoro would find one before other people do, and each one can only be used once. Meaning if Zoro is too late, he'll never be able to get down. However, we already saw in Alabasta that Zoro has his own way of getting through a tower. After outsmarting the tower, Zoro would find himself in a game with other people where they all have to vote on which direction to go. Zoro literally has to win in a challenge where the challenge is picking the right direction. I mean, that just speaks for itself. The next challenge is pretty different though. They have to compete against an opponent based on whatever they agree to. It could be a fight. It could be hopscotch or tic-tac-toe. Zoro will be fine if it's a fight. Most challenges Zoro will be fine with, and one of the opponents is literally Frankie. So he'd probably let Zoro win anyway. But honestly, since we don't know what game they'd pick, whether he wins or not is basically a coin toss. So we'll just have to give him this one and just say that he passed. But somehow, the biggest challenge for Zoro in this maze wouldn't be getting lost. It'd be Tompa, the professional troll. This man lives to troll. This is the guy who goes to the effort of finding the almost impossible to find hunter exam every year and risks his life just to fuck with people. He's literally giving out sodas laced with laxatives in the first round. How do you even get a laxative into a sealed container anyway? The lengths he goes to are honestly impressive. He's like if 4chan came to life. Now imagine Zoro being stuck in a tower with this guy for 3 days, trying not to kill him, knowing that if he does, they're stuck there forever. After the arena match, they all have to sit in a room together for 50 hours, with Tompa trying to fuck with them the whole time, and Gon and Killua just being kids. I think Zoro goes crazy and kills Tompa. But Let's just say he controls himself somehow. After the maze, it's a battle royale in the jungle, then a series of one-on-one fights. Zoro is going to have no trouble passing the exam after this point. So if Zoro can get unbelievably lucky and manage to find his way through the first series of challenges without killing anyone, he'll have successfully completed the tutorial level of Hunter x Hunter. So now Zoro is a hunter, and this is where the real challenge begins, because a hunter is a professional finder of things, a job where the most skilled and experienced hunters may find themselves losing their way and getting lost. In Hunter x Hunter, people become all sorts of hunters. You can become a food hunter, like a gourmet hunter. You can become a treasure hunter, or even a bounty hunter who goes after bounties. Considering Zoro was a pirate hunter, he would most definitely become a bounty hunter in Hunter x Hunter. But this raises the question, how in the fuck did Zoro work as a pirate hunter, a professional finder of pirates, trying not to be found? Zoro's job required sailing across a vast ocean that only skilled navigators can get through, and finding the right pirate in a pirate golden age is like trying to find a real butt on Instagram. Good luck. Especially when most pirates with a bounty will try to hide from someone like Zoro. You know, a guy literally called the Pirate Hunter. I think there's only two reasons Zoro ever succeeded at his job: his incredible luck and the equally incredible stupidity of most pirates in One Piece. For career criminals, most of these guys are about as sharp as the source of Saitama's power. Hunter x Hunter is an anime about finding things, and there is an entire arc where the main characters are stuck in a video game and the only way to escape is to find an entire deck of cards, but each individual card is hidden somewhere in the world. Zoro would have to find an entire deck of hidden cards. Zoro, who couldn't even find his way up a staircase. Luckily, Zoro doesn't have to find this himself. He can just beat somebody up who has enough cards and win that way. Easy, right? No. That wouldn't work because this isn't real life. This is a video game with video game rules. The cards in this game do real things like teleporting, attacking, defending. Just being a strong fighter isn't enough. You have to actually be a strong card player as well. And I think we all know intellectual games isn't exactly Zoro's strong suit. I have no idea how Zoro gets out of this game. I think his journey ends here, and he just has to make a life here. You know, settle down, get a wife and some kids. Eventually, someone else will beat the game, and he can continue his journey of becoming the world's greatest swordsman. But to be honest, when he does get out eventually, that's a goal he would achieve pretty damn quickly. The only strong sword fighters are two assassins who are part of something called the Shadow Troop. To beating them, he'd be the strongest. There really aren't a lot of swordsmen in Hunter x Hunter. I can only think of 3, and that's if we include random fodder character 7 from the maze. Because of this, I feel like Zoro would want to end up not only proving that he was the strongest swordsman, but the strongest hunter as well. We know Zoro is ambitious, so I don't think he's going to settle for something that feels too easy. So now, how does he become the strongest hunter? Well, then he has to take on the strongest hunter. You got to beat the best to be the best. The strongest hunter in this world is the main character's dad, Ging. But here's the problem. Ging is nowhere to be found. Zoro would have to scour the entire world, getting stronger as he goes, finding clues, chasing leads, and after years of searching, not find him because it's Zoro. Then he would go back to the Hunter Association, which is the headquarters for all hunters, was head down low, a bit depressed, didn't manage to find the guy that nobody's been able to find, and then just run into him in the elevator. This is partly because of Zoro's incredible luck, but also because canonically, Ging does go back to Hunter headquarters. Because an event happens which means every single hunter has to go back to that building, no matter where they are or what they're doing. So both Zoro and Ging would be there. And that would be Zoro's opportunity to defeat Ging, the strongest hunter in the world, and prove that he is actually the strongest hunter in the world, achieving his ambition. But let's be real, Zoro is never making it out of the forest. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a fat like, and subscribe if you'd like to see more.